You ever wake up, scroll through the news, and wonder if the world's just falling apart? Uncertainty everywhere, fear on every headline. And don't get me started on moral confusion. Feels like these days, even the dictionary can't agree on what's right and wrong. Some say we're living in end times. Now, I'm not talking about the biblical storm and fire type, more like a constant background static of chaos. But here's the real question. Where do you turn when everything just feels wobbly? Is there anywhere left that offers real stability or truth? I mean, sure, you can binge self-help podcasts or watch 1,000 motivational reels, but let's be honest, most days it's just noise swirling around the same old confusion. Thing is, we're not the first to feel like this. People have faced madness before. Wars, revolutions, times when it looked like the world was ending, but somehow they found a way through. So, what did they know that we've forgotten? Are there ancient ideas or wisdom that actually hold up in a world run by algorithms and outrage? I'm digging into these questions today. And hey, before we dive any deeper, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and just sit back, relax, and let's try to make some sense of this together. And as we wrap up, I'll leave you with a few questions to chew on. Why does the world feel more unstable now than ever before? Have people in the past faced similar chaos? Could ancient wisdom still speak to modern crises? And most importantly, where can we find guidance that truly lasts? You know, most people see the Bible as a dusty old book. Maybe something your grandma kept by her bed, or the thing hotel rooms stash in the drawer. But what if I told you it's more like the original self-help manual, hiding life hacks in plain sight? Think about it. From David squaring up to Goliath, to Joseph turning lemons into, well, an Egyptian empire. These aren't just ancient fairy tales, they're blueprints, patterns for facing your own giants and turning your setbacks into comebacks. Take the story of Noah. Sure, it's about a big flood, but it's also about planning ahead when everyone else thinks you're nuts. Or look at Moses, arguably the first guy to deal with imposter syndrome, leading a crowd through chaos and still finding hope in tough times. The Bible stories are jam-packed with warnings, encouragement, and sometimes a healthy dose of "don't try this at home." It's less about ancient rules and more about timeless principles. Stuff like forgiveness, persistence, and knowing when to take a leap of faith. So, what makes the Bible different from other books? Are its stories symbolic, literal, or both? Can ancient people really teach us how to live today? And most importantly, what kinds of lessons are hidden within these stories? Have you ever wondered why good people seem to face the hardest times? Trust me, you're not alone. The Bible is packed with stories of people who face suffering head-on, and not just a stub-your-toe kind of suffering. Real, soul-shaking stuff. Take Job, for example. The man had everything: family, wealth, a life most of us can only dream about. And then, it all crumbled. He lost it all in a blink. But instead of giving up, Job held on to his faith, even when his friends told him to just curse God and move on. Then there's Joseph. His own brothers sold him into slavery, and for years he bounced from prison cell to palace hall. Did he wallow in self-pity? Nope. Joseph kept faith that his story wasn't over, and eventually he saved nations from famine. Not bad for the family outcast. And let's not forget Daniel, thrown into a den of lions for sticking to his beliefs. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd be eyeing the nearest exit. But Daniel? He trusted that his suffering wasn't pointless. So, what's the deal? Why do good people go through suffering? Is there a purpose behind hardship? How did biblical figures endure extreme trials? And most importantly, what can their resilience teach us today? The next time life throws a curveball, remember, maybe there's more to your story than you can see right now. Hold on to hope and keep pressing on. Ever found yourself in a room where everyone's whispering answers during a test, and you're the only one staring at your own blank paper? Yeah, integrity isn't exactly trending on TikTok, but that doesn't mean it's out of style. Let's talk about people who refuse to play dirty, even when everyone around them was rolling in the mud. Think about whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, who risked it all to expose the truth, or Malala Yousafzai, who stood up for education even when the world told her to sit down. These aren't just folks with impressive Wikipedia pages. They're proof that courage still matters. But let's be real. Sticking to your beliefs isn't easy. In a world where shortcuts are the norm and everyone else is doing it becomes a full-blown excuse. Doing the right thing can feel like showing up to a black tie event in your pajamas. Uncomfortable, awkward, but weirdly freeing. Because integrity is about doing the right thing when nobody's watching. Or, let's be honest, when everyone's watching and rolling their eyes. Here's the twist. When you compromise your values, you might win for a minute, but you lose something way bigger, yourself. And trust me, that's not a trophy you want on your shelf. So, how do we stay true to our values in a corrupt world? Is it possible to stand alone and still win? What does true courage look like today? And what really happens when we compromise our beliefs? Throughout history, it seems like people have had a knack for ignoring the obvious. Take the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, two cities that got the ultimate eviction notice from above. The locals were warned repeatedly, but shrugged it all off until, well, let's just say real estate prices dropped overnight. Then there's Noah's generation. Imagine your neighbor building a massive boat in his backyard because he says a flood's coming. Most folks probably rolled their eyes and made jokes about him on whatever the ancient version of Twitter was. Spoiler alert, Noah had the last laugh and the only dry feet. Fast forward to today, and I can't help but notice we're not much different. Scientists warn us about climate change, historians warn us about repeating the mistakes of the past, and yet somehow we're all still arguing about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. So why do we ignore warnings, even when they're crystal clear? Is it arrogance? Disbelief? Or do we just think we know better until we're knee-deep in trouble? Are we repeating the same mistakes as those ancient cities, tuning out the alarms and hoping for the best? How can we recognize the warning signs in our own time before it's too late? And the big one. What really happens if we keep ignoring them? If you've got thoughts, drop them in the comments. So what warning signs are we missing right now? And what might it cost us if we don't pay attention? You know, sometimes it feels like truth is out of fashion. You say something real, and people look at you like you've just announced you're moving to the moon. But here's the thing. I've noticed that hope, that stubborn little spark, refuses to be snuffed out even when truth gets kicked to the curb. Think about it. Flip through the Bible and you'll see it's packed with moments darker than a British winter. Joseph, tossed in a pit by his own brothers, still ended up running the show in Egypt. Daniel, in the lion's den, didn't become cat food. Even when the truth was ignored or laughed off, God always had a way, a promise, a glimmer. It's almost like hope is hardwired into us. Even in the bleakest moments, there's always a reminder, a whisper, that the story isn't finished yet. Sure, the world today might feel upside down, politics, news, your neighbor's karaoke, But hope doesn't depend on circumstances. So let me ask, is there still hope despite everything happening today? How did people in the Bible hold on to hope? What promises can we rely on now? And where does true hope actually come from? If you're wrestling with these questions, you're not alone. Sometimes hope is the most rebellious thing you can hang on to. But maybe the real question is, what will you do with that hope? Let's be real for a minute. When life throws a curveball, it's like fear sets up shop in your mind, rent-free. You know, that little voice whispering, "What if you fail?" Or "What if it all goes sideways?" Yeah, I know that voice a little too well. See, faith and fear, they're like two wrestlers in the ring, duking it out for control. Fear's crafty. It paralyzes you, makes you question every move. Your heart races, your palms get sweaty, and suddenly your dreams feel out of reach. But faith? Faith steps into the ring wearing nothing but hope and a stubborn grin. It says, trust even if you can't see the next step. And sometimes that's all you've got. Truth is, fear feels powerful, especially when the world's uncertain. It's like your brain's way of trying to protect you from disappointment. But what if staying safe means missing out? So how do I strengthen my faith? It's not magic. It's showing up, praying, reflecting, reminding myself of the times I made it through before. It's choosing trust, even when logic says run. And when fear calls the shots, life gets small. You miss chances, you regret things you never tried. Can faith really beat fear? I say yes, but only if you let it lead. Why is fear so powerful in uncertain times? How can you strengthen your faith? What happens when fear controls your decisions? And can faith truly overcome fear? Ever notice how God seems to ask for the impossible? Whether it's Noah building a boat in a desert or Abraham packing up his life because, hey, just trust me. God's requests are rarely what we call convenient. If I were Noah, I'd probably reply, flood? Here? I've seen less water in my tea kettle, but here's the wild part. Every time someone actually obeyed, no matter how odd the order, breakthrough followed. Noah's boat, lifesaver, Abraham's journey, birth of a nation. Obedience wasn't just about following rules, it was the door to something greater than they could imagine. So why is obedience so difficult? Well, let's be honest. Nobody likes feeling out of control. And sometimes God's plan looks, well, a bit off script. It's like being told to jump with no net in sight. But does obedience always lead to blessing? Not always in the way we expect. Sometimes the blessing is a change in us. Patience, trust, a deeper faith. Other times it's a wild adventure we never saw coming. Now, what happens when we choose our own way instead? Usually we find ourselves saying, maybe I should have read the instructions first. Trust me, I've been there, trying to DIY my destiny. Spoiler, it rarely ends well. So here's the real question. Are we willing to trust beyond what we understand? To say yes, even when it sounds crazy? Because sometimes the craziest requests are the keys to the greatest blessings. If you're wrestling with trust today, you're in good company. So when God's plan doesn't make sense, will you dare to trust Him anyway? Let me ask you something. Are you truly ready for whatever life throws your way? I'm not just talking about having extra toilet paper or a backup plan for your phone's battery. I mean, are you spiritually prepared? Think about the greats from the Bible. Moses, Esther, Daniel. They didn't know exactly what was coming, but they stayed alert, wise and grounded. It wasn't luck, it was preparation. So, what does it really mean to be spiritually prepared? To me, it's about being anchored in your faith. When storms hit, and they will, you don't get swept away. Instead, you stand firm, even if your knees are knocking a bit. Now, I know the world feels a bit wobbly these days. Uncertain times ahead? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean we've got to live in fear. The goal isn't building a bunker, it's building up your heart. Here's the good news. Spiritual readiness is more practical than you think. Start simple. Take 5 minutes in the morning to pray or reflect. Read a passage that challenges you. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, not just those who agree with you. And when you feel anxious about the future, remember, being ready isn't about predicting the next big thing. It's about trusting that, come what may, you're not facing it alone. So I'll leave you with a few questions. What does being spiritually prepared look like for you? Are you ready for the unknown? What small step can you take right now? And most importantly, how can you live ready without letting fear call the shots? Right, so let's be honest. The world right now? It's a circus, and not the fun kind, with popcorn and elephants. Everywhere you look, there's chaos. Headlines screaming disaster, people at each other's throats, and a general sense that the ground's always shifting. But here's the thing. This isn't new. Flip through the pages of the Bible, and you'll find folks who absolutely mastered the art of living in messy times. Take Job, for instance. Lost everything, still didn't cave in. Or Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, then jail, and still, somehow, he didn't lose hope. Daniel, surrounded by corruption, got tossed to the lions for refusing to compromise. These fellas faced the ultimate tests of faith, and spoiler alert, they stood firm. See, the warnings in those stories aren't just ancient history. They're flashing neon lights for us, telling us not to ignore the signs. Faith isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about finding hope when everything's falling apart. And if we're honest, every day we're fighting this battle between faith and fear. Do I stick to my guns or just go with the flow? Obedience sounds boring, but sometimes it's the only thing keeping us steady. So I ask, what sort of life should we be living right now? How do we stay consistent in our faith journey, even when the world's gone mad? What legacy are we leaving behind? When it's all said and done, what truly matters? Maybe, just maybe, those ancient stories are the guidebook we've been searching for all along. So, if you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.